Most people take a vacation and call it a scouting trip. We've been guilty of doing that in the past. Don't make that mistake. A vacation, hey, that's best of the best, a curated experience, margaritas by the pool, maybe a couple of little day trips and to see the tourist activities. But a scouting trip, that's really looking at the reality. Grocery stores, the internet, healthcare, walkability, traffic. Can I really live there? That's the purpose of a scouting trip. And so by the end of this video, this is going to be a pretty comprehensive guide of how to plan a scouting trip and to make sure that you get your questions answered and you know what to look for. So stay tuned, because we're going to be looking at the 10 things that you have to test in the scouting trip and some of those red flags. Now, Jice and I both have our notes because this is a good one, and we don't want you to miss out on anything about planning the ultimate scouting trip to an international destination. Hi, I'm Lynn.
Hi, I'm Jice.
And welcome to our channel,
GenX Quench.
We're a couple, been married almost 27 years.
Yep.
And we are on the road to pre-retirement, which includes travel, living abroad, finances, leaving a legacy for those behind us, and, playing around with this YouTube channel, which we are so excited that is growing and continuing to grow, and we're on our road to 3,000. So you know what you need to do: like, share, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. So let's go and let's talk about scouting trips.
So you're asking yourself, what is a scouting trip? Well, I can tell you what it's not. It's not a vacation with a little homework assignment on it. No, when you're on a scouting trip, you are on a mission to find out, could I actually live here? And if you're lucky, you may get a little vacation or R&R time thrown on top, but you got stuff to do. You got mission to accomplish. So for a scouting trip, what makes the main difference? You're evaluating, can I actually live here on a day-to-day basis? You're also testing logistics, you're testing infrastructure, etc. Like, hey, if you have mobility issues, how are the sidewalks? Is it an ADA type thing? If you need a wheelchair, crutches, those sorts of things. You're also making decisions, not just memories. So again, very serious. You're on a mission. You've got your checklists. And it's a serious matter.
Right. And I think the scouting trip, you're not winging it.
No.
The planning starts before you get there.
Absolutely.
Right. And that's what we're talking about. So
one more. The goal is not relaxation. The goal is clarity.
That's good. Yep. That's good.
Yep.
So you have to really decide what it is that you're scouting for. And what is the goal of this trip, or what is your goal in this international location? Are you really looking at it as retirement? This is a place that we are going to move to and live out our golden years there.
Right.
Is it slow travel? Is this a place that, okay, we're not going to necessarily put roots down, but it may be someplace that we're going to go and visit for a month, 2 months, 3 months? Is this something that you're looking at from a residency or a citizenship pathway? So it's a place where, hey, we want to go and we want to pick up residency in another country or citizenship someplace. And so we want to scout it out just to have it maybe in our back pocket. Investment property. There are people that are just trying to decide, like, hey, I want to own property in another location. And so that becomes a different type of scouting trip if it's one about investment property. And then also healthcare driven relocation. There are some people that, as they age, or if you have a specific health concern, that there are different parts of the world that might be better for your health. And so that might be the driving factor. And just another note, even though most of our watchers and subscribers, and we're in this retirement phase, there may be some of you all that really are just looking because you're trying to uproot your family and you have young kids, whether they're kids or grandkids, nieces or nephews. That's a different type of scouting trip if you're trying to move your whole family and maybe there's, younger children involved. So those are things that, schools, and you really have to think about different age groups. Yeah. And how they're going to live. So that becomes a different type of scouting trip. So your goal really determines everything. You can tell just in those different scenarios, things that you would be looking at differently in each one of those scenarios. What neighborhood you would want to stay in, who you need to talk to, and what questions that you have. So, if you're retiring, healthcare is probably important, the cost of living, the expat community. But if you're slow traveling, it might be more about walkability, what's the neighborhoods, and the internet status. So think about that goal, because same city, but different trips.
Right. Another thing you're going to want to think about is your location, and thinking strategically about that, so you can kind of compare and contrast the types of locations. For instance, do you want a city town versus a mountain town? Do you want a well-known expat hub versus emerging destination? Do you want a tourist area versus a local neighborhood where you're kind of immersed with the local culture? So you're going to need to think about all of that to compare and contrast. For instance, you may say, hey, well, I want a sleepy beach town, and you stay there for like a week and say, well, I'm actually bored. Like, there's nothing to do at night. It's like all there is the beach. So you may actually want a more of a city vibe where you can take Ubers during the day and hit the disco at night or hit the club at night. So you got to think about all of that, take that into consideration. Where, how do you want to live out your golden years? Or do you want to golf all day? Whatever you like, you got to think about that. And if you have a spouse like I do, you kind of got to compromise on, if you have different interests, okay, I got to have the best of both worlds. Can I get to a beach on the weekend, or those sorts of things? So you got to think about all of that in advance.
Yeah, I think that from that standpoint of location, the walkability, the weather, the community, as far as like, are you an extrovert, or you just want to have other people around? And yeah, like you said,
language. Think about, like, if you're in an expat enclave, well, there'll probably be a lot of folks that can speak English, but if you want to be in a local, kind of neighborhood, there may not be hardly anyone who speaks English, depending upon the country. So, so you got to think about all that in advance.
What's the vibe? What is it that you're looking for? And then next, where to stay. And we actually did a video, our last video that we did, that we talked about, Airbnbs, hotels, and resorts, which we'll link up probably in the corner. And that really is an important part of the scouting trip. Resorts, all-inclusive hotels, those things in the tourist district, those create a bubble, and they insulate you from what's really going on in that city, that town, the place that you are. So, our recommendations for a scouting trip: choose an Airbnb or a long-term rental in a residential neighborhood. Now, this can be a condo building, there can be other people around, but be in a place where locals reside. You might also find a small boutique hotel that's probably locally owned, maybe type of mom and pop with a long-term friendly policy. But even those kind of places, there would be maybe a small staff there, but they're knowledgeable, they're locals. A boutique hotel is probably located more in a residential neighborhood. And then also a furnished short-term rental apartment, those that you can stay for a few weeks. You want to wake up to the noises that your neighbors make. You don't want to be like where, the pool bar or, the karaoke the night before, or that type of thing that a resort may offer. You really want to know, what's in this neighborhood, what's walkable, what are my neighbors doing, is there a rooster that crows at 5:30 in the morning?
Avenida Balboa, the park, it becomes like a traffic parking lot when the traffic's really bad.
Exactly.
And during celebrations and parades, it's, you got party buses going and fireworks shooting. So
Right. Depending on the city, the noise level, the time of year, and that type of thing. So stay where the locals stay. Do some research and look at those neighborhoods that you may want to be, where the expats are, or the neighborhoods that meet the criteria that you're looking for, and stay for a week or two there and see how it goes.
Absolutely. So now to the exciting part, the top 10 things you must test. So we're going to kind of go back and forth on this list, but I'll start with number one. The first thing you need to test is grocery shopping. So you're coming to a country as a potential expat, so you're going to want to see, do they have like the brands that you like? And if not, can you live with the local brands? And then if they do have your brands, at what price are you going to have to pay for those brands? And can you test your budget? What does a typical week of groceries cost? So again, you're going to want to go grocery shopping. You're going to test out your language skills too, because if you're in a country that doesn't speak English, you're going to need your Google Translator, or take an immersion class to learn the language, etc., or take a local with you. Is that feasible? So,
Yeah, and the grocery, I think it's also like location. I think here, we're based in Charlotte, North Carolina. We're used to, 40,000, 50,000 square foot grocery stores. If you're in a neighborhood, what is that walkability? The grocery store might be much smaller. There may be a market. People may use, you might be buying fruit off the corner, that type of thing. So just how can you get the foods that you need and,
at the price you can afford.
At the price you can afford and at the location. So, is it a major grocery store or is it a small market? Where are the differences? How will your food be, how will you handle your food shopping? Number 2 on the list is transportation. Kind of segueing into that is, Uber, taxi, what is the availability? How do people move around in the location that you're going? Is it a car or a golf cart? Are you going to have to get that yourself, and are you comfortable doing the driving? Public transportation. If you're moving to a large city, what is the bus or the train system? You may want to try that. Get a pass for a day, do your research, and take a ride, across town, or take a ride to the mall in public transportation. Just overall, what are the driving conditions? What's parking look like in the places that you're going to frequent, in the places that you're staying? Is it a place where if you do have a car, you can park? Is it a place where if people come to visit you, there's a place for them to park that, do they have to pay? So all of those types of things definitely is something that you include on your scouting trip, is be mindful of transportation and how you're going to move about.
And I would even add, research what the apps are for things, because there's not Uber in certain countries. They have their own local version. So before you go, make sure you add those apps to your phone so you can actually catch the local transportation.
Right, that's good.
So now we'll go to number 3. The third thing you're going to want to test is internet speed, especially for those digital nomads or folks who may work from abroad. Maybe they've got their own consulting business. You're going to want to test the speed. You're going to want to test it in where you're staying, so your local Airbnb or hotel. You're also going to want to test it in cafes or workspaces and things like that to see what's the speed, and could I actually, live here and get my work done and be productive, etc. Those of you with YouTube channels definitely need that high internet speed to upload your videos. I would even add, with the internet speed, kind of goes hand in hand with that, what's the electrical situation like? Like in South Africa, they have rolling blackouts, like playing for 2 hours a day, depending on what part of town you're in. So you're going to need to know that as well and research that ahead of time and then test it out. So.
Okay. Number 4, healthcare access. You need to know where the hospital is, the pharmacy, the clinic, doctor's offices, probably dentist's office.
Pharmacies.
Ask the locals what they use, where they go. I think from the other standpoint of healthcare, also know about emergency situations.
Right.
What is the local 911 like, just in case you need it? What is the ambulance situation? We've heard in Panama, to a certain degree, as far as like ambulance situation might be a little bit, will somebody pick you up in a timely manner and drop you off at the hospital that you need to go to? What are urgent care centers like? So that is something that on your scouting trip that is a must do, is to dig into the access to healthcare, all forms as far as medical, dental, vision, the things, and anything that is specific to your personal needs.
Yeah, like for instance, Lynn and I have talked to medical subject matter expert in Panama. That's something you could schedule ahead of time. Make sure you go set that appointment up, talk to them and ask them, what's the typical price for medical insurance here? If I paid out of pocket, what's the typical price for a physical? So all of those sorts of things you can definitely get your questions answered. So on to number 5. The 5th thing you need to research is the cost of living, which that's a big one for a lot of people. You want to track your real spending costs as you're there for meals, groceries, taxis, everything that you would use, bottle of wine, anything that you potentially would use on a recurring basis while you're living there. Test it out, see what the budget is, and then talk to those expats to see, are there places you can get things cheaper, et cetera, more on a budget, those sorts of things. So you definitely want to research that.
Right, and I think it's more also with the cost of living. If you're there for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, document your spending. You know, if you're living among the locals, really kind of look back after a week and see how much did we spend just a week here of eating, of walking around, of purchasing things. That's something that can give you an idea of the everyday incidentals and how much that would cost.
And I would add, once you total up your actual costs, see if that is consistent with some of those cost of living calculators like Expatistan. There's some other popular ones, but you can see, okay, what is the average month of meals cost? Did that track to what you were spending? And maybe that's a local, if you buy local brands versus, you spending on external outside the country kind of brands, what you normally choose. So, or if you're spending at a local meat market versus an expensive grocery store. So you got to look at all of that.
Right. The next one, number 6, is safety and walkability. Walk at different times of the day, walk at night. You trust your gut. Don't put yourself in harm's way, but definitely be vigilant and be aware of your surroundings and what is the safety. You can probably look online as far as what is the safety of the city? What is the safety of the neighborhood? What does crime look like? So that's something that, we just need to be aware. No place is 100% safe, but from the standpoint of how do you feel leaving your place at 8 a.m.? How do you feel leaving your place at 8 p.m.? How do you feel coming back in at 1 a.m.? So that's something to be on the lookout for during a scouting trip, is to make sure that you are checking for safety, walkability, and comfort level in the neighborhood that you're looking to live in.
Yep. Number 7, language barrier. How is it if you are in another country that does not speak English and you don't speak the language? How far is English going to take you there? So you can test that out in restaurants, grocery stores, banks, etc. Test it out. If you don't have the ability, make sure you download Google Translate or some other similar app to at least see if you can communicate and do the basics. And then really think about, how does that make you feel? If you can't communicate or having trouble, could you do this on a long-term basis, a month, 2 months, or a year? So you're really going to need to test that.
Right. Next one, number 8, banking and ATM. Find out which ATMs work with your U.S. cards, what the fees are, how are you going to handle your transactions, your financial transactions. From the standpoint of banking, is this a place probably go in and see, do you want to open up an account? What does it take to open up an account at a bank? I know that we have been to Panama several times. We have been to a bank in Panama. You've got to pack some patience. It may not be a quick transaction. So even just looking at that banking system and how easy it is or how difficult it is, are there transaction fees, the local currency, all of those things, get a good understanding of how you're going to be navigating, because even though we are quickly moving to digital in a cashless society, there are probably places where you still are going to be having to have cash. And so
Mexico is one of those.
Right. And so from the standpoint of ATMs or access, when you're someplace for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 months, how are you going to handle transactions from the standpoint of credit, debit, or cash?
And bonus tip in Panama, to even open an account, you would have to have a referral letter from your American bank, and then you have to get a referral from a Panamanian professional, like an immigration expert. So you can't just walk in there, you taking a vacation, you think you're doing a scouting trip, I'm gonna open an account. If you haven't done your homework ahead of time, that's not happening. So again, get educated. This is a research assignment, not just a little homework add-on. So
Right.
All right, next one, weather and comfort. So again, this is an important one. How do you deal with the temperature? And I keep going back to Panama, but I use that. The humidity is very high there. It's like 90 degrees a lot of times of the year. And then got a dry season and a rainy season. How are you going to cope with that? If you're coming from, let's say, New York, are you going to like that kind of weather, or Chicago? I don't know if that's going to work for you. So you got to kind of research different times of the year. Scouting trip, do it different times of the year. Research different parts of the country. Some mountainous regions, they may be a lot cooler because of the elevation. So you're gonna want to test to see if there's a home within a specific country or part of the world based on what your needs are in terms of weather.
Right, weather. And I think even weather comfort as far as like natural disaster risk.
Yeah.
As far as from the standpoint that, are you in a place that is prone to tornadoes, prone to hurricanes, that type of thing. So it may not, those natural disasters may not happen, earthquakes, while you're there, but is the area that you're looking at prone or more susceptible to those kind of natural disasters, and what is that reaction and what does that look like and what's your comfort level with it? And then finally, the other thing to test is community and social life. As we age, we know that isolation and loneliness is one of the big things that seniors struggle with. And so if you're moving to another country, it actually probably could be intensified. So make sure that you are finding other people to be in community with, whether that's locals or other expats. I know that most countries, there are expat meetups probably daily and weekly. You just have to sort of be plugged in. So attend a meetup, go to a local market, a community event. If there is someplace, a museum or some other type of meeting at a coffee shop, please don't be shy about that. Attend and engage, participate, ask questions, but definitely check and make sure that there is a community around you that you can build and that you can lean into, so that the whole trip is not necessarily isolated, which is important whether you're going to a big city or a smaller town, that there is community, however you define it, that you can find it there.
Yeah. And before you go, you can check with Facebook groups, WhatsApp groups for the social meetups before you even go. A lot of times you can just throw a question, hey, I'm going to be in this country these weeks. What are the different events occurring? And they usually have calendars that will post something a week in advance. So that's a way you can kind of keep up with what's going on, because you want to find your tribe so you can vibe. So you want to get in where you fit in there. So, and I did think about something else on tip 9 about the weather. Some countries, and we've experienced this when we were in Mexico, Puerto Vallarta, but I know like Southeast Asia has it too. They have what's called burning season, where they're burning their forests or trash or things like that. And Southeast Asia, it's like January to April. So if you went in May or June saying, oh, I love, Thailand, and you have asthma, and then you move there, and then in January you're inhaling all this smoke, and you got to test out the healthcare system because you can't breathe. You're going to want to stay certain parts of the year. Again, research what times of the year things happen, but that's another thing with the weather is breathability.
Right. And I don't think that any of these need to be non-negotiables. They're part of your scouting trip. So definitely we don't want to scare anybody off from doing something, but it is about testing. And these are 10 things that you must test, because if you just do restaurants and go on curated tours, that really is just an elevated vacation. That isn't a scouting trip. So you're rolling up your sleeves and really trying to figure out, can I live in this place? And so, as we mentioned with the community and social life, you definitely need to talk to the right people. So during this trip, seek out expats, and seek out expats at different stages in their journey. Seek out the ones, if you can find somebody that's been there for less than a year, if you can find somebody that's been there for maybe 2, 3, 4 years, and what has been their experience. You want people that are still in the honeymoon phase, and you want people that have gotten out of that honeymoon phase, and they're honest about those frictions, the complexities, the pet peeves. You want to know that. It's not necessarily to scare you away, but just so that your eyes are wide open going in. If there are relocation facilitators, local real estate agents, we've said this before, if you're on a scouting trip, see if there's a real estate agent that maybe can take you out for half a day so that you can see what the rental market or the purchase market is like in that place. Immigration attorneys, visa specialists, relocation, the people that know about the bureaucracy, the paperwork. What would it take if I wanted to make residency or citizenship? What does that path look like? Look at the host of the people that are staying. If you're an Airbnb host or you're in a boutique hotel, those owners, the people that, interact with people coming and going. You can talk to them and they will give you their wealth of knowledge about what it's like and what they see as far as people that are moving there and their initial reactions and things that they can share to make that transition easier. And then finally, local business owners that interact with expats daily. If you're in that local market and you're going there several times a week, likely you will, meet up or develop a somewhat informal relationship with the person that's checking you out. have conversations with them, find out about, how long have they lived there? What do they like? What do they wish were different? And so these are the questions and just interactions, some of them intentional and formal, and you need to make before you go, and other ones that just happen in the course of doing business and talking to people. I think the other thing of people that you may want to talk to, as Joyce mentioned, the doctors, if you have specific cases, if you're traveling with any school-age children, going to the schools and finding out about that. But definitely incorporate and figure out who are the key people that we need to talk to make this transition easier and to get our questions answered.
Yeah, for another example, if you're like us, or we have our mother living with us, we would want to talk to like geriatric specialists or people come in and come to your home to help that person out in terms of their mobility, or maybe preparing meals, the medication, et cetera.
Right.
So that's another consideration, especially when you're in a sandwich generation like us, where people may have kids and elderly people that live with them.
The caregiving is good. And also that's probably a heads up for us too as we get to that age too. What does caregiving look like?
What does that look like?
So even if you're flying solo, but for those of us 50, 60, 70, it's like, what does caregiving look like? And let me talk to some people about that. So good add-on.
Yep. So next, the other thing you're going to want to consider is your residency options. Now, if you watch our channel, we talk about this pretty regularly. So you're going to want to look at all your options, from temporary to permanent residency, retirement or pensionado visas. For those of you who are digital nomads, usually those are 12 months to 19 months that you can get those. What's the cost of those? What's the timelines of those? Are you going to have to make visa runs or not? So a lot of consideration. So definitely would advise talk to a facilitation expert or an immigration expert as well in those particular countries that you're looking at. And I will do a slight plug. If you're interested in talking about Mexican or Panamanian residency, give us a call. We have consultations. We'll connect the QR code, make sure we post it, and we have a link to consultations as well. And I'll also give a nice little shout out. We've had 3 consultations, but 2 of which who've gotten permanent residency within a year. They didn't have to wait the 4-year time period. They saw our video for Mexico. They saw our video on that and reached out to us, and we're so happy that you gave us a call, and congratulations on getting permanent residency in Mexico.
Yep, we're happy to help and share our Rolodex and make that process a little bit easier.
Absolutely.
So as we're rounding out this video, I know hopefully you're still sticking with us, but this is a comprehensive guide to a scouting trip. Here are some red flags to watch out for when you're doing that scouting trip. Number 1, healthcare gaps. And we talked about healthcare as something that you need to definitely test, but look for those gaps. Are there long waits, limited specialists, language barriers in emergency? How do you feel about getting healthcare? If something happens, do you feel comfortable, or is there a gap, or is there something that's going to be difficult for you to work through? Number 2, bureaucratic friction. So we talked about it, opening a bank account, getting a SIM card, registering a lease. If the simple things are hard, then the complex things will be harder. So, we know that we've gotten used to a certain level of comfort if you're US based on how we work in big cities. But when you go to other countries, it's pretty common to pack an extra level of patience, that things may not operate the same way that they do in your home country. So you have to have a certain level of comfort with that, but also know going in, are there friction points in dealing with bureaucracy? Infrastructure issues is another red flag to look for. As Joyce mentioned, are there rolling blackouts? Is the water reliable, or is there unreliable water? Are there bad roads in rainy season?
Right.
What is the infrastructure? How stable is it? And when it goes down, how far down does it go? And is that going to be an inconvenience for you? We talked about community, so isolation risk. Especially in smaller towns. It might be great those first couple of days. It might be great those couple of weeks. But, it's beautiful in a photo, it's ideal, and it feels like the life that everybody wants to live. But are you going to be lonely after 6 weeks? Are you going to be lonely after 6 months? So, test that isolation risk to make sure that you are surrounded by the people and the resources that you need. We've also, the red flag of weather extremes, visit in the off season, not necessarily the high season or the peak comfort months. See what it's like if it's rainy season. See what it's like when it's hot. See what it's like when it's cold. Whatever those extremes are, test that out and let that be a red flag. And then also the other red flag, if everybody's happy, you might want to check the vibe. So if every expat that you meet sounds like a brochure and a walking advertisement, you probably aren't getting the full story.
Right.
So dig a little bit deeper. So that's the red flag. It's good that everybody should have, I love it here, but there's probably a but. And definitely, look for that, probe deeper to make sure that you're not just accepting the superficial, things are great, I love it. Really find out what are the things that they wish they knew, what are the surprises, what are the things that they don't like, because no place is utopia.
Even ask them, what's the one thing you would change about this place to make it totally perfect? Then you can dig a little bit more on that.
Right, definitely.
So, what's the final question that you've done this research, this in-depth scouting trip? What's the final question you should ask? It should not be, hey, did we have a good time? No. It should be, could I see myself living here? Whether it's 1 month, 3 months, 12 months out of the year. If you're serious about looking at a country, that's the key test is, hey, could I make it here? Could I be comfortable? Do I see myself fitting in? Does it fit my budget, et cetera, and all my key needs? That's the question you really got to ask yourself. And one of the things you could do to kind of analyze that after you've taken a scouting trip is make sure you journal daily. Like write down your likes, your dislikes, figure out what your non-negotiables are. There may be some you didn't realize you even had, but you gotta, once you're there and really scouting it, you'll have real-time notes that you can make. And it doesn't have to be handwritten now. We got technology. You can put them in voice notes on your phone, etc. But whatever you do, make sure that you're writing those down. And if you have a spouse or partner, like I do, you're going to want to compare your notes to make sure you're both on the same page and come to compromises on those. So.
Right. And I think in addition to the notes, it's, take pictures, take videos, record conversations, ask permission if you can record the conversation. Because once you get back, if especially if it's a slow travel or if it's a scouting trip and you haven't moved, you're in the moment and it's a lot of information, but don't forget to document that because once you come back home and days pass, you'll forget it. So I know that, not only because of our YouTube channel, but just in general, when we go places, we record conversations, we videotape, we take pictures of places that we go, restaurants that we like. We, write them down as far as like, what did we eat? What did we like? Oh, don't get this again. And so all of those things are important for the scouting trip, but also afterwards. Plus, it also allows you to share with others. So, just like what we're doing, you may not have a YouTube channel, but just informally, you go to another country and people ask, well, what was your experience there? Or I'm getting ready to go there. You've got notes, you've got pictures you can send. You can help people along the way, which I think is important from the standpoint of community. So as we bring this to a close, hopefully this has been helpful for your scouting trip. As Jice mentioned, we do offer consultations. So if you want to schedule some time with us where we can really help you map out that scouting trip, from a personal standpoint, we'd be happy to do that. But as always, we appreciate you being part of our Quench crew.
Absolutely.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this video. And let us know in the comments. Was this helpful? Have you planned a scouting trip? Are you planning a scouting trip? And let us know in the comments to keep the conversation going.
Yep, and I want to send a special shout out to the Quench crew, our frequent people who comment. I read all the comments. I usually will comment back, but our frequent subscribers in the Quench crew or commenters are Stable Movement, Craig K, Taurus 75, Dina W, Courtney, Dallas D, Alonzo B, and Regina M. Thank you so much. We really appreciate the comments and the frequent questions, etc. So keep them coming, and we hope more of you subscribe. We know that only about 20%?
20% of the people watching, right?
People who watch are subscribers, so just jump on the bandwagon and subscribe. We're on the road to 3,000 subscribers, and we really appreciate it.
Yes, we appreciate you for hanging with the Quench crew. Hope this video has been helpful. And with that, we'll see you on the next GenX Quench video.
Adios.
Adios.